Hey everyone, welcome back to another tutorial. My name is Christian, and today we're talking about audio processing in Adobe Premiere. And audio is one of those things, it's like the icing on the cake, and if you've got really good audio, it can take a video from 80% all the way to 100, and if you got really bad audio, it could take an awesome filmed, cinematic video from 80% down to 50%. So it really can make the difference or break the difference. So today I want to talk about audio processing and my workflow, depending on the project. We'll have a couple projects here to look at, and I'm just going to talk about synchronizing clips, some clip master controls, presets I use that speed up the workflow and the process, how to deal with music and dialogue at the same time. And then finally, we're going to close out with some mastering handles and just get your final audio ready to be displayed, basically, or to upload to YouTube or wherever your content's going to end up. It's going to be at a great level for that. So getting into it here, I've got a city group reminder video just finished for the weekend. So this will actually be released before the video's played. So that's kind of interesting, but I thought this was a great example, and I just want to play back here from the beginning so you can hear all that we've got going on.
Well, you have been waiting for them, and they are finally here. City groups have officially launched for this trimester, and it is not too late for you to join one.
Cool, we've got one of my besties, Pastor Josiah, here at the church, and so we're just going to go through this clip. There's obviously a lot of things happening. We've got music, we've got dialogue, and the first thing we're going to talk about is synchronizing clips. So I've actually created a sequence over here with just his original clip with the audio from the camera.
Well, you have been waiting for them, and they are finally here. City groups.
We've got a lot of noise. I think you messed up here a little bit.
Okay, that can't see back.
So maybe we're gonna cut that out a little bit. But so we've got his original clip here with the original camera audio, and of course, I can't stress this enough. You're gonna wanna, whatever you capture, video-wise, film-wise, or audio-wise, you're going to want to capture and start with the best source you can. So whether that's investing in a great microphone, great recorder with great preamps, or investing in a top-of-the-line camera, you're going to want to do that so that the process of coloring or basically audio processing would be coloring the audio, like you would color footage or add a LUT to a footage or a piece of footage. You're going to want to start with a great source, and that's always the best place to start so that you don't have to do a ton of audio processing to it. So camera audio, probably not the best source of audio. He's about 5 to 6 feet away from the camera right now, so we actually have a shotgun microphone right above his head, and this is the audio from that shotgun microphone.
Well, you have been waiting for them, and they are finally here.
So a little cleaner. And what we want to do is synchronize these clips together. And I could go in and expand these clips and actually try to line them up manually, but Premiere has this awesome tool that we can use called Synchronize. So I'll select both clips, click on the video clip, and then go here, right click on the clip, and then go to Synchronize. And how this might pop up if you haven't used Synchronize before is you could synchronize the clip start. If you've recorded with timecode, that can be convenient, so it will snap to timecode, but a lot of times it works great is just snapping to audio, and it will analyze your clips and then it will sync the audio together. So I'm going to press OK, and it'll process it together. Here's the playback of that.
Well, you have been waiting for them, and they are finally...
Sounds a little bit echoey because we've got 2 sound sources and a pretty reverberant room, so we're going to mute the original audio source and see how well it syncs.
Here, city groups have officially launched for this trimester, and it is not too late.
Sounds pretty good. And we just want to deal with the room reverb a little bit, and then treat the vocal or the dialogue with some effects here. So I'm going to go through that, but basically how I go about my processing is a lot of times I will automatically, or I'll start with a file with some of the mastering in place already. But I want to end the video with that. So I'm going to start with some of the presets I use. And I use presets from this guy. His name is Matty Hapoya. He's a YouTube filmmaker, content creator, and he's got a great channel out there, and he sells these presets, and I guess they're on discount right now for 20% off, which is cool. But I use these presets as a bass tone for the microphone that we have, and it usually gets us to the place fairly quickly. And he's actually had a sound designer create these presets, and you can watch a little tutorial from him about how they were created. And so someone who's a lot more knowledgeable in audio than he is or I am, and has spent the time to really optimize the signal flow for shotgun mics, for any kind of audio you might have, and splits it into male and female voices too. So pick that up. $40 will save you a lot of time and headaches. So in my effects section, I actually, in my presets, I can scroll down and there's a folder I have when I imported. And he's got some Foley extras, but the voice processing is what we're gonna go to today. So I'm going to male voice indoor, because we were indoor. And then I like to use the damp light or the normal light setting. So I don't want a ton of audio processing on it, but here I'm gonna A/B them with what we have.
Well, you have been waiting for them, and they are finally here.
So that's without the audio processing. And here I'm gonna grab damp light and drag that to my audio clip and restart.
Well, you have been waiting for them, and they are finally here.
So it's not doing a lot of amplification specifically, or too much compression, but it is adding a little bit, and you can kind of see I'm gonna close down these frames here. We've got a high pass, we've got a couple stages of amplification to counteract the multi-band compression that we're using. And then it's just got a de-esser for any sounds that could be on it, and a limiter, but we're gonna limit this later too. For that room reverb,
well, you have been waiting for them, and
there's a great tool in Premiere in the effects section called D-Reverb, and I'll use this a lot just as a way to tighten up the sound, and to get it to the place where it sounds a little more dry, a little more focused. So I'll apply that above all this other stuff. So if I applied the D-Reverb after everything, it would actually, it would already be amplifying that sound, and then I'd be taking away, or basically D-Reverb works kind of like noise reduction. I would be taking away that already amplified. But if I put it up here, I can take it away from the source, and then everything else that's amplified is clean. So I'm gonna go into edit, and I usually just do about 10%, anywhere from 10 to 20% of the amount, and then that should clean things up.
Well, you have been waiting for them, and they are finally here.
So that's with it, and this is without it.
Well, you have been waiting for them, and they are finally here. City groups have a...
So it just tightens up the sound a little bit and gets it to a place that I'm more comfortable with, and won't compete a lot with the music that might be underneath this clip. So I usually only have that at about 10%. Now moving on to the music, we've got here over in our timeline. I'm gonna play this back again, and we'll just listen to what's going on.
Well, you have been waiting.
So you can kind of see right here, I've got a keyframe down on the volume. We talked about keyframes in some of I think the first introduction setup video. But I've keyframed and set some keyframes here for volume down, just because my dialogue is starting right there.
Well, you have been waiting for them,
and the other thing that I've done, and this is really convenient when we're working with dialogue, is I've actually created some keyframes in here for a low pass filter. And low pass is a great effect that you can use to really separate your dialogue from the music, or and really reduce.
Well, you have been waiting for them, and
some of the higher frequency energy that's happening in the music. So I'm just going to solo out what the low pass is doing here. So it's rolling off the high end and allowing more of the lower end to come through, which I think is great, because it's a lot of the human voice operates anywhere north of like 200 hertz. And so if we can lower some of those frequencies on the high end, and you can see actually how the cutoff works is it's going down to about 1500 hertz. So we're not competing with the voice from 1500 hertz all the way up to 20k hertz. So that can be really helpful in separating from dialogue.
Well, you have been waiting for them and they are finally here.
And you can keyframe that right in the effects controls window for some of these effects, and then any volume changes I'd make on the actual audio track. Just because you can keep volumes down here and then your low pass keyframing. So I've actually got the low pass keyframing at the front there, and then if I go all the way to the end, I've got some more low pass at the end of this video, and I'll play back so you can hear how this video ends.
Have available.
So it kind of raises the energy and the intensity once the dialogue ends. We bring back in the music to full volume, and we can and it kind of wraps up the video in a nice way.
Have available.
So here's the last
all
10
of the
seconds.
groups we have available.
So pretty cool technique there. And another thing you might see here is when I'm cutting up tracks or if I'm cutting up dialogue, I'll use these constant power things. I'm using this as an audio transition right now, and we're going to talk about that in the transitions tutorial, but constant power can really bridge the gap between different sections in a way that that is pleasant, because it's creating a crossfade between these two clips. A very quick crossfade, mind you, but a crossfade nonetheless. Now, moving into this final section of the video, we're going to talk about mastering and what I have set up here in the master bus. And on the output, I've got two simple things. And I think you can accomplish a lot with just these two. But I've got a multi-band compressor first, and I've got that on the broadcast. So it's actually going to level up everything. And I'll A/B it here so you can hear. So this is without it.
Site where you can look at all of the groups we have available.
So it's a little less, and then this is with it.
Of the groups we have available.
So it's going to bring up the level to normalize it more or less, and then the hard limiter is the last thing on the chain, and that's going to limit the peaks. And I usually bring that to negative 0.1 decibels. So I'm never going to go over unity gain or 0 decibels. It's always gonna stop, and the limiter is gonna keep that level underneath 0 decibels. So I'll play that with and without that as well.
Where you can look at all of the groups we have available.
So that's that, and then with it.
Look at all of the groups we have available.
So it's kind of bringing up a little bit of the higher frequencies as well. And then the last thing on this to note is that, say I don't have the best dialogue track
out on something,
or I need to do some surgical editing on his voice, or there's a rumble or there's a hum. There's a lot of great tools in the effects. If you go down into the audio effects section, you can see there's a bunch of denoise, de-hum, de-reverb, but I think a lot of times, and I think the most easy way to do it is actually on our audio track to actually bring up the parametric EQ. And when you open that up, it'll preview for you.
Big. This is where
what the actual audio looks like. And then I would go hunting for frequencies and maybe use the 96 range so that you've got more boost range and cut range. And I would find those troublesome frequencies, and you can use you can pull these points with your mouse, or you can adjust them down here. But I would go and raise the Q value. The Q value is just is how narrow this frequency pull is, and I'll just narrow it and find the places that are troublesome and then cut them. So to find them, you would go up here. Maybe there's some troublesome.
Or you will find new friends.
Maybe that's a troublesome frequency, and then I could pull that down.
Where you will grow your community and strengthen.
So with it and without it,
the relationships that you have made with people.
I mean, right in this specific example, we didn't have any treble frequencies, but use surgical EQ and little cuts here and there to really fine tune your dialogue the way you want it. So again, this has been audio processing. If you got any questions, drop them in the comments below, but I'll see you guys at the next video.